How many English is not your primary language? Put your coat on. One of you yesterday, who's living in Dubai, who's from Italy, brought to my attention, not directly, but indirectly, the fact that I use idioms, axioms, a lot of other things that are specialties to English. Not necessarily the Queen's English, but American English. It's important to understand these things. Now, we had a guy, 13-year-old here, years ago, and I said cocksucker. And it didn't dawn on me that a 13-year-old kid wouldn't necessarily know what the fuck that meant. And his older brother brought it to my attention. He went through the whole goddamn seminar, because I used that quite a bit. And the nuns seemed to understand it. Priests and rabbis, shamans seemed to understand it, but a 13-year-old kid, I knew what that was when I was 13, but then not everybody had my kind of background. When Corona first broke out, and I made a bunch of predictions back in March 2020, every single one has come true. I said there will be 4 waves. We're in the middle of the third. And I wish, although I don't invest in the market because I don't want to be in competition with you, even though it's not really any competition, Sally and I are in cash. The kids that were here, please close this down, that seminar. The first one was in March, right after Corona broke out, and they made them go home after the, I think it was the 3rd day, might have been the 2nd day, and then all of them haven't come back because where they lived, various quarantines. To say that my commentary was prophetic, I called negative oil. I don't like to blow smoke up my own ass, but I mean, I was right on. And just as I told them then, and now, we haven't seen anything yet. And the fact that the stock market is climbing a wall of fear doesn't mean a fucking thing. The Corona time is going to last a long time. Masks, or the paraphernalia that is now considered normal, that wasn't considered normal before, is going to be with us for a long time. For those of you of Asian descent, you know that in Asia, they've been wearing masks a long time. YouTube has forced me to allow advertising. I still don't allow comments. So that's why we have advertising on my YouTube account now. I've been banned by Facebook a long time now, and I've been banned by Instagram. And it's taken almost a year and a half to get them to close the Instagram account down, and I'm not sure it's even closed down now. And they don't allow you to close it down, even though I'm banned. And for those of you that have tried to get off Facebook, you understand what I'm talking about. It's not easy. And if that was a regular business, it'd be illegal. Those big companies are pretty much in control of our destiny going forward. So now I can only be followed on LinkedIn and YouTube, but I don't respond. Wikipedia has blocked any comments, and they've eliminated about 85 or 90% of my Wikipedia things that you can write about me. All they say is I went to San Fernando Valley State College, which turned into CSUN, and I run various businesses here from the castle, and the shareholders threw me out. That's basically all they say. None of the other things. Wikipedia has a hard-on for me. Be my guest if you think you can get something on Wikipedia. There's a lot more about me than what's on there now. Some of you have paid to get on a waiting list, and now you're here. People, life happens. In fact, there's at least one of you that's a replacement for somebody that had signed up before because, I don't know, somebody in his family died, or a 4-year-old daughter got pregnant, or some shit. So for those that are watching on YouTube, you can, if you put your money up, possibly come to the seminar next few months. Possibly not. To Corona the castle up, get it ready. We've spent a few $100,000 getting all the bedrooms to have their own private bathrooms, et cetera, which wasn't the case before. Almost everybody that's here made some sort of sacrifice. Quarantine. Now, I wouldn't stay in quarantine to hear me. Congratulations for those of you that did stay in the quarantine. I wouldn't stay in quarantine for Jesus Christ himself, Allah, or Muhammad. The fact that you made that sacrifice is quite admirable. I'll be 76 in a few days, and I plan on spending the rest of my life, the majority of my life, for charity work. I've already mentioned about the mini-me's, but there's a lot of guys and a few gals that are trying to pretend that I have sanctioned their product, which I haven't. I haven't sanctioned anybody's product. And right now, we're going after a few in court in various parts of the world. And remember, I told you, you can do QLA any place as long as there's a rule of law, a real rule of law. There's no real rule of law in Russia. There's no real rule of law in the Ukraine. There's no real rule of law in Belarus. There's no real rule of law in India. There's no real rule of law in certain parts of South America, in certain parts of Central America, certain parts of Asia. But where there's a real rule of law, you can do this. And that means when somebody fucks you, you can go to court, or you can threaten to go to court. The best places to do this are the United States, the UK, Canada, most of what was old Western Europe, certain parts, South Africa, I shouldn't say that because we've done it in Ethiopia, but it's harder in Ethiopia and various other places. But I'm going to give away $1 million this week to somebody. There's no upsell connected to it. Normally it would be a lot of fanfare. It would be shit on the internet, the gift of $1 million, which means I'll have to pay gift tax. So you can think about who it might go to. I said last night when I was talking up here before dinner, congratulations to Jeff. It was his dream from 21 years ago. I knew or met Jeff about 20 years ago. He was just a little nerd, a little computer nerd, like some of you. He wasn't as bald as he is now, but he still was bald. And he had a dream 21 years ago. For those of you that don't know anything about him, he's Cuban and his mother remarried, all kinds of bullshit. None of that fucking matters. He just gave his ex-wife billions. She just gifted 40 million of her money to my school that you got to explain about. How she picked, I know how she picked my university you got to explain about, because since I went there, it has turned into a great university in 3 areas. None of those areas that I go to school there. It took me 25 years to create $1 trillion through you guys. I've been the $1 trillion man for over 3 years. Who had the harder time? Me, getting 1 million people to create $1 million. If I'd known it was that fucking hard, I wouldn't have done it. But he had a dream. You can't have a dream come true unless you have a dream, right? Most of you, when you listed on your paperwork, goals that you had, with one or two exceptions, exceptions in the room, they're not even worth writing down. And you had some time to think about it. So it wasn't something that you just off the top of your head. And if your goals are that low, after you had time to think about it, Murph, what the fuck? That's tragic. It's beyond tragic. Whatever word transcends tragic, that's what it is. It's tragic. How low self-esteem that you can have. And the size of your dream is directly proportionate to your self-esteem, self-confidence, self-awareness. If after thinking about it, they're that low, there used to be a saying in my neighborhood, how low can you go? Now they were referring to trashy girls that you went out with. And as my mother, only bits of advice my mother ever gave me that was worth a shit is you go to bed with dogs, you get up with fleas. And she wasn't referring about my pet dog. She was referring to some of the young ladies that I went out with. And in my day, you only went out for one thing, to get fucked. That's it. I've never bought candy, flowers, cards that you give them for Valentine's Day, that kind of shit. Never. And now you can do it easily on the internet, I'm told. Never. Not once. Almost everybody in this room has done one of the above that I just mentioned. And how's your program worked out for you? I got laid as much as the Beatles. And how's your program worked out? I show this slide out of sequence for only one reason. Stock market ownership today is 40% of the net worth of the public. 40%. So if they have $10,000 in investment in net worth, $4,000 is in stocks and $60,000 is in all the other. You can look at the chart in the last 10 years, it's the highest it's ever been. Investors' appetite for risk is at an all-time high. Stocks as a percent of households' financial assets are above 40% for the first time ever. Americans are trading on margin like never before. At the end of June, margin accounts total $882 billion, up 50% from just a year ago. And now they're talking about we're entering a period, or we've already entered a period of like the Roaring 20s. Now, none of you in this room, myself included, is old enough to know what happened after the Roaring 20s. 14 years of depression, that's what happened in a sentence. Kids in this room have gone to seminars where people preach we're never going to have a down market. Kids in this room have gone to seminars and paid people good money for bullshit. It's quite remarkable to me. It just emphasizes what P.T. Barnum said about 120 years ago. He said there was a sucker born every minute. I believe there's a sucker born every microsecond. I only use this one company, Robinhood, which is a very vogue investment for young kids. Average age of a Robinhood investor is 31 years old. Less experienced investors because trades are free. That's how they suck you into the vortex. They're not really free because they're selling off the information, your data. But anyway, many of them are first-time investors, and this is how they've scaled up from 2015 to 2021. More important thing is that many of the companies like Robinhood come public and come to your awareness in a raging bull market. And a rising tide lifts everybody. It lifts the shit and it lifts the Rolls Royces. If you knew, like I knew, that 87% of all the money on the planet managed by kids less than 30 years old, you'd be sick to your stomach. I'm gonna say it again, slow. 87% of all money on the planet that's managed by other people, they're less than 30 years old. What possibly can you fucking know? The frontal lobe of the male man has just become developed at between 26 and 28. It's still growing. That's why you do stupid things as a young man. I can attest to it. I could write a book about dumb shit that I've done. We've got one Mentee who's a Vietnamese guy, a gangbanger. You're gonna hear him on a webinar. He said, it's hard for me to get scared ever since I got shot. Oh, he robbed banks and shit. It's tough for me to get scared, Mr. Pena. Because once you've been shot, relatively close to the heart actually, you hit him in the heart, he'd be dead. Yet here, some of you, having gone to quarantine, fell off the turnip truck, but you're here. And to say that this will be a transformational week is an understatement of biblical proportion. Only if you pull the trigger, meaning take action. We're gonna listen to a guy a little later on who was at the seminar 3.5 weeks ago, who if I was to bet on anybody not pulling the trigger, I would have bet on him not pulling the trigger. I already told you last night, we have historical data. The people that ask the most questions do the worst in the program. We don't give the slides anymore. We have historical data that you use that as a benchmark. It's like the online shit that you buy. 60% of it's never opened up. The shit that you buy and have Amazon, I guess Amazon delivers, you never open up, you never use. 60%. It was the same with our slides, 2,600 slides. 80% didn't use them. Now you're saying, well, I'm one of the 20%, Mr. Pena. I mean, I'm getting fucked because I'm not getting them. You're full of shit too. YouTube, go fuck yourself.